Hello, this is Nick Rijmakers here with the development deep dive of the layout web content mentioned pages in order to render your header and footer in your environment or for your project. And let's get started. So here in front of me here in my IntelliJ I have opened my project, the example project layout WCM pages. And I'm just gonna show you basically how this can be of use in your project. Really, the idea is to bootstrap up your project with a header and footer, so you can copy over this code or just write it hand by hand, whatever you like. So here we just have our typical structure, and I'm just going to start off by showing basically how to create the head content page first that uses our solution. So let's see. Basically, it's really simple. The way this works is that in our content pages we have, well, here is our body, and we define a header and footer page path, which is just a string property with a path field in IAM. This is inherited because we do not for each page want to configure it per se. However, we do want to be able to override it, of course, because that's where that flexibility comes from. So what do we do? What's the basic setup here? Well, we delegate the header and the footer using basically a sling include, and in HTML we achieved that by using data SLI resource. So what we do here is we include, of course, that path we defined, add a selector content, and here is a neat trick I learned from Vijke Visser to remove the decorating tag that goes around this include, because we don't want that. Some front-end projects, they don't respond well to that, so we don't want that. So we want pure HTML, and we achieve that by specifying here a resource type. Pretty simple. Obviously if you define your header someplace else you need to adjust this, but no big deal. Then you have your regular content, can be whatever you like. And then here the same goes for the footer. We just delegate the footer again with the same mechanism. So that's step number one, really simple to define, your content page. And then obviously the next step is to actually create the header and footer template. So you can start creating header and footer pages which into reference. Oh yeah, I forgot actually here, of course, is the dialog of the content page. You also need to do that, of course. As you can see, it's just a path field, and the author here can then configure which header and footer to use. But let's go to the header template first, because this one is the most sophisticated. The footer one is pretty simple. So I'll start with the header, and I'm just going to keep it pretty basic in this session. The next session will be a bit more complex, but for now I'm just going to keep it relatively simple. So this is a CQ component, which is just a page. And it basically, in the author view, it will render as a regular page. So you can actually view the header. That works by using the sling resource supertype. But what we are interested in really is the content HTML, because that is what we load in, and this is what we specified here. So we said here add selectors content, so we specifically target the content rendition over here. So this is what will be loaded in the regular content page. So this will be what comes out. So here we will define our header. I keep it really simple, obviously, but obviously you can put in anything you like. You can in your header put maybe a logo component. Right now I just have some dummy text, but you can put an actual component, maybe let the author be able to change the logo image or whatever you like, size. And then basically the only thing I have in this demo project to keep it simple, here it will start rendering the menu entries. So the way this works is that the header will be able to render the main menu using child pages under the header page. I will show that in a later video how that works with the author, but you have to assume that for now we work with resource page. It's really important because if you use the current page, you will, revert back to the actual content page, and then it will look at children of that content page to construct the menu in the header, and we do not want that. We want to use the pages that are under the header page, and we achieve that by using resource page. So this is crucial. So don't use current page over here. So using the children of our resource page or header page, we can then construct the menu basically. And here what we will do, I defined a HTML template, include menu entries. And basically what it does is it will just loop all the children of the resource page and just include it. And again, what it will do is just do a data SLI resource with the path and append JCR content and with the resource type. So this is basically how that will be constructed. I believe I have to also add the selector here. I think I forget it, but it also should have the content selector. So let me just add that. Just a second. So add selectors content. This should also be over here. Add selectors content. Am I doing that correctly? I believe so. Right. So okay. So again, what we do here again is we just target the children of the current resource page and we loop those. So, and this is a template because we need to do this again in the main entries, because the main entries have sub entries and those sub entries can have sub entries, etc. So using this, you can just keep traversing until there are no more children out there. And this gives you a great ability to achieve good composition, because the rendition of a main entry and a sub entry and whatever you like, maybe a different main entry that looks a bit different, can be completely separated in a clean manner. So let's look at that. So okay, again, we reference the template we just used. We execute the template using the resource page as parameter, and then it will include the children. Now, those children will be menu page main entries. And of course, I keep it really simple here, nothing too fancy. Just a main entry here, with href, anchor with a href with a target. And here, of course, you can really see that it starts to work, because the link that the entry points to is a property here in this entry page. So what I do over here, see, I have defined a tab. Let's see, where did I put it? Okay, I put it here, just pretty generic. And under this tab for the menu entry pages, we put a target path where we want this entry to point towards. So it's just a path field here. And this way we can say, okay, this entry should link to this page, if that makes sense. And that comes out in here. So pretty basic. And again, here in the main entry, we also want sub entries. So again, we use the template that we defined, and now we call the sub entries from this resource page, which we're in. And the resource page, of course, will change on each include. So we can just keep reusing this code in every menu entry page template. And it will eventually stop until there are no more children out there. But of course, this then should point, main entry will point to sub entry. And in this case, I just left it at here. Obviously, I could actually, if I would like, I can just maybe make sub entries over here. Sub entries, or not sure how you want to call it, but this would work as well. You can go as deep as you like, but for now I'm going to just keep it out, keep it pretty simple, just as a demo. To ensure the correct hierarchy, of course, you need to use the template mechanism to really make sure that you can only create the main menu page, the main entries on the first level, and then the sub entries below that. You can use the out-of-the-box features from IM to limit the author to create the proper types of menu entries under the correct level. And that is also in the code here. I'm not sure if it used to be here, but let's see. Yeah, so under the header page, the first level that you can create here with CQ Allow templates are main entries and main entry variant B, which I'll come to in a bit. And under the main entries, you can create the sub entries. So this way we restrict the author to only be able to create the correct pages on the correct level. Otherwise, it will confuse the author. And this way we're sure that we get the correct markup that we need for the front end. So that is basically the very basics. Now I also want to show, obviously using this pattern, you're not restricted to one template. You could use multiple. So here I have a variant. So here I just put some text like, hey, I render differently, I'm a different rendition. So say in the menu, you have 8 menu entries, main menu entries, but you have one that needs to be a different color, for instance, or maybe a bit bigger or bold, or whatever the requirements may be. Well, what we can just do is then create a different template called variant B. Works exactly the same, basically. And that points obviously to variant B here. We put our different HTML or different rendition logic over here. And then basically, well, that's it. The author then creates a template, a main menu entry using this template, and then Sling will take care of the rest. You don't have to worry about it. So I hope that I demonstrated basically the power of this and the flexibility for the header page. Obviously, I didn't show the footer page, but it's pretty simple. In this case, usually the footer is a lot simpler than the header. Usually the footer is just some components, maybe some list items, a grid. You can go as far as you like. You could also build up renditions using children of this resource page, but usually that's not required. Usually it's the header where all the complexity lies. But yeah, I hope I demonstrated the power of this solution to you and the flexibility. I know it's a little bit more complex than a multi-field to set it up. But once you set this up, it's going to be so much better in terms of maintainability and in flexibility. So next up, the next video will be an advanced development deep dive, where I will go into basically the personalization and the caching mechanisms of the solutions. That will be a little bit more difficult, so I will do it in the next video. Thank you.